All right, we'll call the regular time board meeting to order with a moment of silent meditation, please. All right, and we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, it's nice to see a big crowd out tonight. I don't know what's going on, but I guess we'll find out. Have a motion to adopt the agenda, please.
So be it. Second.
Motion, who motion? Motion by Richard, second by Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Consent agenda, can we have a adoption of consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, is there a second? Oh, Betty, you were out of place there. All right, the motion is second that we adopt the agenda, consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. We have a consent agenda. Go ahead, James.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 5 on the agenda. This is public comment. Members of the public are invited to address the Board of Commissioners on any topic. Public comment is not intended to require the board to answer any impromptu questions or to take any action on items brought up during this period. Speakers will address all the comments to the board as a whole and not one individual. Discussions between speakers and members of the audience will not be allowed. Time limits are 3 minutes per person or 5 minutes per group. Please come forward to the lectern and identify yourself so your statements can be recorded. Mr. Mayor, if I may, as a point here, we may have folks here present to do public comment. I would like to note for the record, there is one topic on the agenda for which public comments have been coming in via email, and we have provided those. Those comments were provided regarding item number 8C, the New Year's Eve special event. We've provided copies of those comments to the board. There were a couple members who sent emails asking that they all be read out or that their comments be read out, but I'll leave it to the board to determine whether the comments that have been provided would be read out or whether they'd be provided to the town clerk and attached to the minutes to incorporate them in the record.
Well, there's a good argument for it, but yet it would take all night long, and I don't know which is the most proper. But the first thing I'm going to do is ask the board what they want to do with it.
I mean, I don't think we need to. We've all got them
seen
emailed earlier. We've seen them, and they'll be on record, like you said. So I don't see a need for it. But if we want to read them, that's fine. We'll do.
Any other comments?
Did you say they requested that they be read aloud?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, but there were 1 or 2 that asked that they be read, but I also know that we've provided them to the Board of Commissioners both in electronic and in hard copies so they could be included in the record as appropriate.
How many were there, James? I saw them. I just read some of them.
Mr. Mayor, we
Look,
had
we got
approximately
4.
8. We had one come in right around before close of business today. In addition to the other ones, there's about 8. A couple of them had a page, and some of them were short emails. So there was plenty of feedback.
Well, we could put it a matter of record and put it in the minutes, and with their names and their stamps, we could do that. I think that's what Jason is. I'm not putting word in Jason's mouth. Is that basically what you're saying, Jason?
You got it. I mean, I'm fine if other people do want to read them, but we've got a lot of people who might want to speak as well.
Yeah, I'm fine either way.
And we
but-
have seen them. You know, they were emailed to us earlier. Appreciate that, and we've got them sitting in
Well,
front of us. As well.
has the entire board read the statements from the people?
Yeah, and it's well noted, Mayor, and to the public that requested that it be read publicly, we hear you. We read this information. Just because they're on paper don't mean we ignore them. We actually, we reread them 2 or 3 times, I know I do, so we certainly look at it and read it.
Well, we will be the final decision makers, and it's the board's discretion. And personally, I think we have read them, and we know what they're saying is about, well, I'm not going to say how it's going, but it's pretty evident, the feelings of the letters. How can we dispense of this, James? Just make it a motion, put it in a matter of record?
Mr. Mayor, I don't think a motion is required, but we understand the consensus is to have them incorporated in the record. They've been provided to the town clerk to do so, and if you'd like, we have folks present if they'd like to approach the lectern for their comments here tonight.
Well, if anybody is going to speak to this, they'll have opportunity next public comment period. If they got that opportunity tonight.
Yes, sir.
So let's go on and let's take James's motion. And can we get a motion to second James' suggestion?
I don't think we don't need a motion, right? So we can just.
Okay, that's all right. Yeah, I
Good,
I
good.
misunderstood you. All right, let's move on.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the lectern is open. The microphone's over here. So if anybody would like to approach the lectern, identify yourself so your statements can be recorded.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the commission. I'm here not to speak to an item on the agenda, but rather to introduce myself in a somewhat new role in Dare County and in the town of Manio. I'm Randy Fenninger. I'm a resident of Manio, live a couple of blocks over here. I've met many of you from time to time, mostly by Zoom. I simply wanted to say I've been recently appointed to the Board of Elections for Dare County. Of course, there are municipal elections coming up. I wanted you to know where you could throw rocks, make comments, whatever you felt necessary as you go forward. I simply wanted to take a moment to say I now have that role and look forward to the opportunity to work with the community, the county, obviously the elected officials, and the staff of not only Manio, the other towns, and Board of Commissioners and so forth. I'm available for fistfights or whatever is the pleasure of the board after the meeting has been adjourned. I simply wanted to say I have this new role. I look forward to working with all of you in that capacity. Thank you.
What was your phone number?
I think I'm in the record.
Thank you, sir.
Hello. Hello, my name is Jill Etheridge, and I work with Pirates Cove. I'm the executive assistant for Sharon Aldridge, who's the property manager, and I'm here tonight representing Pirates Cove Homeowners Association. Thank you for giving me the time to speak with you all tonight. We sent out a letter earlier, so I hope you all had an opportunity to review that. And we just want to say we appreciate the planning board recognizing the importance of the issue and unanimously recommending the resolution, and we hope that the board does the same tonight. Adopting this resolution will allow the remaining properties in Pirates Cove to be developed in accordance with the plans as approved by the town nearly 30 years ago. And it also provides Pirates Cove the assurance to be able to rebuild and protect our community if any event or natural disaster happens. So the community of Pirates Cove thanks you all for the support of the resolution, and we invite you all to come out to the 37th Billfish Tournament next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. Sometimes I feel like this is a broken record, but obviously I'm here to show support for the New Year's Eve festivities that we've been doing for the 3 years minus the COVID disruption from last year. I think the event itself has gained traction. It's done well. Corey Himmelwright, myself, and a few other people have worked hard to get it to where it is. And I just think it needs to continue. I think it brings in people not just from Dare County, but I think it brings in people from, well, I know, from Norfolk, from Virginia area, from Raleigh area, because the bookings show it. And the one reason that I had found out that it was canceled was because of a customer in Port Richard said they had not seen it on the new website, and that's what brought it. But I hope this commission understands that it is an expensive event. All the events that you guys do are great, but they come with an expense. But I think they also portray what the town of Manteo is willing to give its citizens and its visitors. And I think it's a first-class event, and I think it'll continue to be one. And I just ask tonight that you support it, and let's continue it. And it being a town-sponsored event, I think it'll take some of this uncertainty out of who's responsible for what. But I think Corey and I both would be willing to work with Michelle and whoever else is special events committee to show them what we have done in the past and make it even better. So I ask for your support. Thank you.
I'm Gib Harrison, and I'm here for the same support of the New Year's Eve event. I moved here over 35 years ago, and shortly after moving here, I was amazed at the activity that went on in Manteo area and Dare County in general. And it's just amazing of how much activity we have here, and to look out and see how many people love coming to Manteo and love coming to Dare County. And throughout the times I've been here, you know, we all complain about the traffic, complain about the lines in the stores, and complain about crowds. But that's what the Outer Banks is for. And I know there are many, many small towns and now big towns that would love to have the problems that we have, which is traffic, parking problems, lines in stores. There's many small towns and large towns that would love to have that problem. And I just support this New Year's Eve event. That's just another event for people to come and gather to see how great this place is. And it was not done by us in here. It was done by Mr. Owens' mom and dad and the others, Mr. Mann's mom and dads and grandmas. And so it's up to us to keep that fun, to keep that action in Dare County by having things like this. And the expense that Todd mentioned, I don't think you can pay the expense out of what it gets to support this community. That's what keeps us going. That's what keeps these businesses intact, is to support from the outer town people that sometimes, myself included, complain about. But we're so fortunate to have the many people that we have here and to have the problems that some people think we got. So I really support us continuing, especially in the off-season, is to have the New Year's Eve event to bring another crowd, to let them see how great a place we live in.
Would you like to go first? Yeah, absolutely.
Here, Ms. Davis. Here.
I'm Jim Davis, and I'm here with my wife, Ann. We're proud residents of Manteo. I know many of you here. And we moved here about 15 years ago, and because this is the kind of town that we thought it was. And it ended up not disappointed. About 5 or 6 years ago, the Tugwells, which many of you may know, they live in the county, and us went downtown to stand under the clock downtown and take a picture when the new year came in. All by ourselves. I was saddened, except for one business in town, that there was no one down here. There was no one celebrating. There was no one to usher in the new year. And it saddened me. And I said, oh. So getting with Flossie Tugwell and my wife, and we said, no, we got to do something about that. So we started coming down by ourselves, standing under the clock downtown, and ushering in the new year. Illegally, drinking some champagne. And, but we thought about that after we went home and had legal booze. We said we should do something about that. And we started coming down, standing under the street light. I've got pictures at home showing proof. And we came, I don't know how many different years. I've got pictures at home. And we were very saddened. And then we became very pleased when through your suggestions that we started having some real celebrations. But it really, I had some problems, and I had to move away from that. I still live here. I live over in no, I live. I had some problems with, but anyway, this is a town to be proud of, and we need to get people here. And any reason that we can find to encourage people to come down to visit our town, we need to strike on it. And I was very disappointed. I've been at the hospital and doing a few other things over the last 2.5 years, and she has to help me. But I don't think that we've got free advertisement. We've got people that want to come here and be a part of our community. And I think if we can get them to do that, and I recognize that I'm not a businessman. I was talking to tonight. Why would anyone pay attention to what I'm saying? Am I out of time? Yeah. Okay. I think that we should look at this very closely. And I see a lot of people around town, from down around town, that, as I look around, that are part of this this community. And please look at it not necessarily from the financial viewpoint, but to keep our little town alive. This is our town. And if you don't care about our town, what are you doing in here tonight? All right? Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. I was holding the gavel in my hand, holding off as long as I could. It's normally 3 minutes, and I was giving you a little bit of extra time, but we really appreciate your comments. And come back and see us.
I will. Next issue.
That's all right.
Good evening. My name is Grace Bishop, and I am a small business owner. And so I'm going to speak to this, concerning the small business and how the New Year's Eve events and every event affects us. Last year I opened my business, and who knew? I opened it March 16th. A week later I had to close down until May 9th when the bridges were open. So I'm guessing last year was okay, but it sure would have been a huge help to me as a small business owner if we had been able to keep those events going, especially the one at the end of December, because it was such a draw for people, and it really would have helped me tremendously in the months of January, February, and March when there was no one here and I couldn't keep my business open. So I'm begging you, please let us have every event that we can have, because it's a tremendous help to the small business. Thank you.
Hi,
My name's Melissa Bender. Mayor and Commissioners, thank you for letting me speak. And unlike Todd, I'm happy mine's not a broken record. I get to talk about something different this time with you all. I want to, of course, say I stand behind Todd, and I've seen how hard he's worked to get this event started, and I've seen what it's done for the community. But I want to talk to you about it from the kids. As a teacher and a mom, I think about the kids. And I've watched that ball drop in the snow. I've watched the fake snow. I've watched the real snow. I've stood by that fire freezing to death to watch those kids celebrate. That one year it was so cold. And I've watched that early ball and those kids, and then those kids go home. And then I've seen the community, the families, the teenagers hanging out in a safe place with their families, celebrating an event in a healthy, happy way. And I feel like that gives them an outlet to do it in a safe way as opposed to going out and doing something they shouldn't be doing. Granted, there's always going to be problems. We know that. But we need to celebrate, and we need to let these kids celebrate. And I just truly believe our community needs that this year more than any other year. We all need to come together. The old, the young, every color, every ethnicity, we all need to come together and celebrate this new year that we have coming. Thank you very much.
I'm on a different topic, so maybe if you're on the same topic, I'll go after you.
I'm going to keep mine very short, thank you. I'm sorry, my name's Dee Evans, I'm a local. I help with some rental properties around here, and the last few years, certainly I have friends from out of town or guests that I've known for years that want to come and be part of the New Year's Eve, and have already booked last year, but then got canceled. So I just really think it's a wonderful thing, and the people are not local that are coming, that are booking rooms. They want to be a part of a small town celebration, even though it turns into a large celebration, which is fantastic for all of the local people here. We love it. The town does such a great job of cleaning up and getting the traffic and the whole bit. It's an amazing event. I think it also needs to be a town event. It's maybe help, sponsored by the town so that we can promote it even more. But I have an overwhelming amount of people requesting where can I stay, what's going to be open. I've heard about this so far away, coming from PA, from Virginia, from Raleigh, so all over. I think it's a wonderful thing, and thank you for Todd for starting it. And I remember that cold morning, and it was fantastic. So thank you, town, and we'll keep on trucking.
I'm going to switch gears, which I hope is going to be all right. And I have written comments, so I'm going to probably read from them just to keep organized and on time. My name is Kathy Wasakis. I live in Manteo, not for as long as all of you, but I've been here about 10 years, and I live in the Peninsula at 101 Sunset Court. I am here this evening in regard to something that I just became aware of on Friday, have passed along to my neighbors. It's in regard to the proposed development and a pending CAMA application for a general permit by a Peninsula homeowner, our neighbor, Ian Snyder. The proposed development would be on the 40-acre Marsh Island owned by Mr. Snyder on Scarborough Creek, east of the Scarborough Creek neighborhood, and unfortunately their representative could not be here tonight, Darren McLeod, but is with me in spirit, so to speak. And this encircles the Peninsula neighborhood. The Scarborough Creek and the Marsh Island is pretty much right across from Scarborough Creek and the Peninsula. The applicant, our neighbor, is suggesting that he wants to construct a 70-foot pier, an 18 by 18 covered platform, which in the neighborhood is being called the Party Palace, and a 50 by 20-foot boat slip. This would be in addition to the CAMA permit he's received at his home, where he's going to put a 60-ton boat lift for a boat he's going to be receiving soon. When I learned last Friday of the application, and I have to stop and tell you, it wasn't through, the Peninsula has an HOA and we have a board of directors. The applicant's wife sits on the board of directors. There's clear conflict of interest on our board of directors. So unfortunately, the grapevine is very weak. And I just found out about the application on Friday and really have done nothing but work on this since that time, as Mr. Ayers can attest to, Ms. Dickerson, and obviously the CAMA people. But I was shocked, frankly, that a development of this nature and the construction of this kind of building could be even permissible on what looks like an environmentally sensitive, fragile, I'm not an environmentalist, but we've got beautiful birds, ospreys, cranes, I mean, all kinds of wildlife teeming not only on the island, but also within the waterway. We can all see it. I was just shocked that something like this would even be considered. My husband and I, as well, thank you, as many of our peninsula neighbors are in opposition to this development for reasons stated in letters to CAMA, which I'm going to distribute to, as well as some other materials. We believe the permit should be denied. I understand that's not your purview, but we want this to be on your radar because we know if it's it could come to a building permit situation. We would love for it to come to a public hearing. We believe that the proposed development does not conform to CAMA's own requirements for a general permit, in particular with respect to some very specific sections, which I'm going to provide those materials. I don't think there's any question the development will endanger and adversely impact the conservation of the waterway in the Marsh Island beyond dispute. It's not just us that live there, but many kayak through there, the COA kayaks through there, people paddleboard. It's used by many, many people, not just those that live there. I know I'm out of time, so I'll leave it at that. I'd like to distribute materials if that's okay. I'm available at any time. Come to my house. I'll show you what we're talking about, and I just hope the town of Manio will notice this and do everything it can in its power to stop this. I think it would set a terrible precedent for development along waterfront properties in a potentially a commercial manner, which we believe our neighbor has those intentions. Thank you.
That is quite all right, but just give those to the town manager, and he'll distribute them to the board.
Good evening. My name's Mike Peters, Manio resident. I just wanted real quickly to also voice support for the New Year's Eve special event. And also, like Melissa said, I know our children love this event. They love the early family time, and I know they love trying to stay awake for the fireworks. It was Manio's events, me too, that attracted us to the area. We haven't been here that long, only about 7 years, and Halloween, Christmas, all the things that were put on for the families. One of the reasons we decided this is where we wanted to raise our granddaughter. But anyway, I just wanted to offer support. It's a great event, and I hope you'll keep it going. Thank you.
My name's John Robbins, live at 109 Puddle Lane. I'm here tonight not to speak. I've attended the event down there and I enjoyed it also, so supportive of that. But I'm here to discuss the resolution for the land use plan at Pirates Cove. Jill Etheridge earlier spoke about that, and she's there with Pirates Cove, representing Pirates Cove. At the planning board meeting, there was a lot of good dialogue and discussion with the planning board members. There were questions asked. They thoroughly investigated it. It was passed unanimously. At that meeting, Sharon Aldridge attended, as well as there's a letter that was presented by Andy Gay, who's the president of the Pirates Cove HOA. And again, they passed it unanimously. We would request that you also do the same and send it to a public hearing, and that way the public and the citizens of the town could comment on such. It's not about just the one lot at Pirates Cove. It's about Pirates Cove and the larger entity. Over 30 years ago, the town of Manio approved Pirates Cove, and they approved it under planned unit development, a PUD. That PUD allows certain allowances for density, things of that nature. Certainly, it couldn't be replicated. It would be out of place in today's Manio, but as a community, Pirates Cove is what it is today. There's 272 single-family residences there, 30 remain, and it'll impact many of the remaining lots, and it will impact most all of the lots in the event of a natural disaster or other event, which the Outer Banks sees a lot of them. And allowing that resolution to pass will not only help the one lot that I've spoken about, but will allow Pirates Cove to continue. So with that said, past 30 years ago, Pirates Cove is pretty much developed out. I would just ask that you allow it to continue to be developed as it is and not put any more restrictions on it. With that, I thank you, and I'm going to stick around if y'all have any questions. But again, the planning board passed it unanimously, and I would request that y'all do too. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Jennifer Parser Hamlin, and I'm a new resident of Manteo, but have been in love with the place for years. I'm lucky enough to call myself semi-retired, so I was able to move here. I'm not going to really repeat what Kathy said so eloquently, but my biggest concern is there was a little loon that actually a neighbor and I got to Roanoke Island Animal Clinic because it had been attacked by a raccoon. Its life was saved, and it was sent to Buxton to be rehabilitated, and it's back. There have been manatee, otters, and, oh, Dr. Burkhardt. My bad. Cleo's vet, sorry. Anyway, so the wildlife there is just so precious and rare. And the idea that a dock of this size, which would become a party location, and I'm going to put on my lawyer's hat, is a really dangerous precedent. A 55-foot diesel yacht and the encouragement of that kind of development along our coastline will forever degrade and change what makes this area so precious to us, which is our wildlife, as well as it being a wonderful community. And our children are raised to appreciate it, and it goes from generation to generation. What will happen if there is no more wildlife because of that kind of development? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, James, you want to ask anybody on the, we're not using Zoom or anything tonight, are we?
No, sir.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next up on the agenda, this is item number 6A. This is a public hearing for a zoning text amendment for animal boarding facility. Appearing before the board to present this will be Town Planner Melissa Dickerson.
Thank you, Mr. Ayers. Mayor and Commissioners, this is a public hearing for a zoning text amendment to add animal boarding facilities as a conditional use in the B2 General Business District. The Planning and Zoning Board has recommended approval of this text amendment to you. The applicant is in attendance this evening along with her engineer, should you have any questions that need to be answered. And at this time, you would need a motion to open the public hearing.
I move to open the public hearing on the zoning text amendment for animal boarding.
Second.
All right, motion second, we open it to a public hearing as to zoning text amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Go ahead, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this point, anybody who chooses to speak on the specific issue of the zoning text amendment for the animal boarding facility, please approach the lectern and have your voice heard. And we'll provide another opportunity in case anybody wants to have their voice heard on the zoning text amendment for the animal boarding facility. Mr. Mayor, it appears we have nobody wishing to speak.
Can we expedite this? Can we move right on with it?
Mr.
Or
Mayor,
not?
If it's all right, Mr. Mayor, if in this particular case, if you don't mind, we'll have a motion and a vote to close the public hearing.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes, sir.
I move to close the public hearing for the animal boarding.
Second.
All right, motion second that we close the zoning hearing and move on with the boarding facility. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this point, it is in accordance with the statutory provisions. It would be appropriate if the board wants to deliberate on it. We certainly have the applicant and their consultant available, and it would be allowable if the board chooses to vote on this particular issue because it has been noticed in accordance with the requirements.
Don't see no one. Go ahead, James.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And at this point, if the board considers it, there's, it is your will at this point whether you choose to put a motion out and have a discussion amongst yourselves or with the applicant.
We don't need a motion on it, do we?
You would only need a motion if you want to go ahead and vote on this tonight.
Why don't we go ahead and vote? Somebody make a motion.
I'll make the motion to
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion and second that we go ahead and vote on this issue and be done with it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, that's,
Thank you, sir. Now that there's that particular agenda item is complete and approved, we'll move on to new business. We'll move on to old business. In this case, it's item number 7A. That is consideration of land use plan amendments. In this particular case, this follows up from prior board direction to the town attorney to look at the land use plan and any potential amendments thereto. In this particular case, that was sent to the town attorney, Ben Gallup, who can walk us through what the next steps would be in this process.
Thank you, James. It's here for you tonight to, if you want to go forward with it, to set a public hearing, and if you don't want to go forward with it, then you don't do anything and it just dies as it is. It's been to the planning board. They made some changes. I wasn't at the planning board meeting, but I watched the video and I attempted to modify it the way that they asked that it be modified. So I think there are two versions that are in your packet. The second version is exactly what they said from a motion perspective, and the first version I think is probably what they would be a better way to do it, but follows along with what they said. So I think the issue before you tonight is whether or not you want to have a public hearing on it for I think mid-September. Is that correct, James?
What's your legal opinion, Ben?
It's up to y'all. I think it's a policy provision.
I'm not trying to put you in a box.
Yeah, I mean, it's a policy provision that y'all can change if you want to. I would, if you're going to do it, I think I would recommend the first one that's in your packet that changes the definition of upland wetlands a little bit different to, so that it includes, so it specifically does not include coastal wetlands. And I think that there may have been a misunderstanding the way the planning board was trying to change it, in that they didn't see that coastal wetlands are going to overlap with federal 404 wetlands, because they took out the exception to coastal wetlands from the definition of upland wetlands and made it just 404 wetlands. But that may affect somewhere else in the document rather than what we're targeting, so I would rather keep the coastal wetlands.
All right.
What's the box up?
Well, it's broader
as
than it.
townwide?
Well, another thing that's important for you to consider too is that it's what Mr. Robbins has brought to you and talked about before would have just applied to Pirates Cove, and the planning board has expanded it to apply to similar areas throughout the town. So
Well,
the provisions in front of you would go beyond Pirates Cove.
But if we do it this way that you're recommending, it would just kind of contain within Pirates Cove, right? Not?
No, sir.
Okay. Which is the best way to contain it within Pirates Cove?
Well, neither one of the ones.
John, I will say this while I'm talking. I'm trying not to be out of order because I do not have a vote. I think Johnny has good merit, but we need to hear from Pirates Cove. If they don't object to it, then I certainly wouldn't object to it. If Pirates Cove objects to it, then I would have problems with it.
Yeah. The one that I prepared that went to the planning board was would have only been for Pirates Cove.
Okay.
So that they changed that, so the ones that you have are ones that reflect the changes that they presented at their meeting.
Pirates Cove does not ask much from us as much as they should, quite frankly, and they're very gracious to Town of Manio, more gracious than we are to them, I think. And I think we need to adhere to their wishes, and if they're not in it, then pretty well we take your recommendations. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about putting it to public hearing, and Pirates Cove has been, came out to support it. So, I mean, it seems like there's no reason to shoot it down now and not have a public hearing on it and see if we want to move forward with it. So I'm all for it.
Rich?
Yes.
Eddie?
Yeah, I'd like to hear a couple.
Well, let's, what do we do, James?
Thank you, sir. So hearing consensus from the board, the next step would be for a motion and a vote on setting the public hearing. If you look at your sample motions, the public hearing is actually proposed for September 15th at 5 o'clock. The reason it wouldn't be at your very next meeting is that there are longer notice requirements for this. We make sure we comply with the state laws on that. So that's why the suggestion was to have that hearing on September 15th.
All right, September 15th, we got plenty of running room to maneuver and get through all the hoops, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Somebody make that motion.
I move to set a public hearing on September 15th at 5 p.m. for land use plan amendments.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second that we set up a hearing for this new zoning and for September 15th and set it up for a hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. You'll schedule the meeting and everything, notify them.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Next up on the agenda, now we're moving to items of new business. In this case, item number 8A. This is the Town Common Phase 2 Architecture and Engineering Contract. This is rather exciting because not only did the town put funding in its budget for Phase 2, which includes restrooms, shade structures, and related things to improve the town common, also we were lucky in that we had an engineer who had already worked on Town Common Phase 1 and the general design of the restroom facility. There was a local architect doing that as well. So what's before you is to authorize the town manager to go ahead and sign the contract, get that architecture and engineering going, and press forward with this project for which funds have been appropriated.
What's the feeling of the board?
Let's roll.
Keep progressing.
All right, move on.
Need a motion?
Motion.
I move to approve budget. I move to approve the town manager to execute a contract with a value of $47,440 with Albemarle Associates and any amendments with the allocated budget.
Second.
All right, motion second that we move on with Phase 2 of the architectural and engineering contract of Time Commons. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you, sir. Next up on the agenda, item number 8B. This is the comprehensive plan contract. In this particular case, the town of Manio is following what the state legislature has directed all the towns and cities that provide any kind of zoning, and that includes us, to have a comprehensive plan in place by July of 2022. And that may seem like a long time, but it's a long process, includes significant amounts of public participation, and will also be informed not just by community input, but also work of special groups, like the 20-year plan working group has worked on sections that would be very relevant to certain chapters of the comp plan. We had actually, as a point of note, we had, based on some public comment indicating that the North Carolina State could do this for us, and for free because they're land-grant university. We did, the town planner and I did reach out. We've had extensive communications with NC State. We had two long conference calls. Unfortunately, they did make us aware they can do certain services, but with regard to a comp plan or architectural and engineering services, they're forbidden by law under something known as the UMSED Act, which the department head at NC State told us about. They're not allowed to perform work like this that conflicts with professional services that are done by private sector firms. However, we were lucky in that the North Carolina League of Municipalities anticipated this, and they arranged for a preferred partner who can provide these services, especially focused on small and medium-sized towns who may not have access to those services. So we went ahead, worked through the league with their preferred partner, Stewart Inc., and what you have before you is the proposal to go ahead and execute a contract and start this process. It's going to take us a good 10, 11 months. It'll take us all the way up to July, but we have seen their qualifications. We've seen the desire for significant public participation, and we're excited to press forward with this comprehensive plan, which is required by state law.
All right, we need a motion.
Yes, sir.
Okay, motion's in order.
I move to authorize the town manager to execute a contract with a value of $83,750 with Stewart and any amendments within the allocated budget.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second to comprehensive plan contract. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you, sir. Next up on the agenda, item number 8C. This is the New Year's Eve special event. So at the last meeting of the Board of Commissioners, there was direction indicating a desire to go ahead and get the facts before the board in order to consider having this event turned into a town-run special event. The scope was, of course, outlined in the staff report. It would include both the early family activities all the way up to the early ball drop, and then additional activities, the bands, the fireworks, and all that type of thing. It does take several steps by the board to do this. This isn't something the town manager can just, wave a wand over. This requires 3 specific actions of the board. As we talked about in the staff report, some of the things that we did as staff, of course, we worked with the fireworks company. They had already said they were available, figured out the contract terms of that, also worked out the budget amendment. The finance director spent quality time on that. And of course, we need your authorization of for us to move forward with the grant. The grant window is open now. We have already drafted that based on the grant application that I did in 2019. So if the board wants to move forward, they would have to approve the money, the appropriation by that budget amendment. They have to authorize me to apply for and accept the grant funding from the Outer Banks Visitors Bureau. And lastly, allow me to execute the contract with the fireworks company. So those 3 actions can be done in one motion if you choose to move forward.
All right, let me ask you some questions.
Yes, sir.
The chair. Cannot we incorporate all of these in one motion?
Yes, sir.
A, B, and C, and D?
Yes, sir.
All right, now, I don't think supposing I would suggest that Manio take on the New Year's Eve event as a major project, along with Dare Days and Christmas and July the 4th, make it a major event, so we don't have to go through this year in, year out, year out, that Manio knows it's a major event for the citizens of Manio and everybody else involved. Can't we do that?
Yes, sir, in this action, if you chose that
Would the board have
action.
any objection to that, so we won't have to bring it up every year?
No, I mean,
As long as Dave Matthews comes. As long as Dave Matthews gets here. As long as Dave Matthews gets here.
Let's do this and clear this thing up, because I've been on the board 3 years, and it's been a major contentious issue, and it should not be. As the people have spoken here tonight, it should be a major event for Manio, and it's unlike any other town in eastern North Carolina. I can't talk about Tidewater, Virginia, but it should be a major event, as Mr. Davis said, standing on that clock with he and his wife and Tug was celebrating it with a glass of champagne by themselves. So let's incorporate it if we can, James, and I think I'm hearing from the board that everybody's in agreement.
Yes, sir. Yes,
How
sir.
would we word that motion?
We have before the board sample motions that would incorporate all the actions you need to take to make that happen.
Okay.
I do want to point out, I think it's been loud and clear. The emails we got are 8-1. The people who spoke here, 8-0. And I really, after the last conversation we had on it, tried to get out. And anytime I was having a conversation with anybody, I brought up New Year's Eve, and I know some other folks were opposed to it. And to Betty's point of we hear you, everybody's input is important. And I was surprised that I did hear some people who didn't like it, but again, it was probably 10-2. So I'm all for it, and I just wanted to point out, even though you're the minority, you are heard at times. That being said,
I agree.
I'll
We,
make
we,
a motion if anybody doesn't.
Question real quick, just to get in the mix here. And I know you can't say what kind of grant funding we are going to receive because we don't know that, but do you have an estimated projection of maybe what we've received in the past as far as grant funding and maybe what we're applying for this year as far as grant monies?
Yes, sir, Commissioner. So in the prior 3 years, the grant awards were $15,000, $17,500, and $20,000. $20,000 was the last grant application that I did in 2019. The Outer Banks Visitors Bureau has a formula, and that formula is based on how many out-of-town attendees we get. I know that I've spoken to the Visitors Bureau. I believe the mayor and others have spoken to the Visitors Bureau as well. What I would like to do, though, is to see if we can increase, obviously we had an ad campaign in 2019, but I'd like to increase that, so if we can qualify for a higher level above $20,000, I'd like for us to do so and you know, shoot a little higher for that.
well, not getting in your or Michelle or business, then I think if you make your major argument for the town taking it over, which it has never done before, that we could impress it being a major event for the town and unlike any other anywhere in eastern North Carolina, and maybe the Tourist Bureau would look more favorably. Not put words in your mouth, because you're much better at that than I am, but sell the product to the best you can. So I think you can get more money that way.
Yes, sir.
The only reason I'm offering that, I'm sitting on the Tourist Bureau board too. All right. Is everybody, Rich, you got anything you want to say?
I've always been a big favor of this. I've tried this for years and years to be a town-sponsored event, and it's
Okay.
fallen on deaf ears, so I'm all for this.
All right, all in favor of the motion? You want to read the motion, James?
Can I make the motion?
I don't have it.
I'll make a motion here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I move to approve budget amendment number 1, authorize the town manager to apply for and accept grant funding, and authorize the town manager to execute a contract with Pyrotechnico with a value of $44,000 and any amendments within the allocated budget.
All right, is it second?
Second.
Second by Richie. There's a motion and a second on the floor regards New Year's Eve event. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Did you, Betty?
Yeah.
You got something?
Just ask, but yes, sir.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carried.
Thank you, sir. Next up on the agenda, this is item number 8D, under new business. This is entitled Manio Police Department Personnel Policy Updates. I was pleased at the last board meeting this had been asked to be brought up. It has to do with the Manio Police Department. We had for actually about the last month and a half to 6 to 8 weeks basically, where we'd seen there has been a significant change in law enforcement agencies and the compensation. That came after the last pay plan update. But we were, as you see in your staff report, that there have been significant increases with other area agencies which have impacted recruitment and retention. In that particular case, you'll see that we did an analysis of both entry-level officers, and it was consistent up the range for all of our sworn positions within the department. So you have a recommendation for me on pay grade changes. There's also a second issue in there too, and that's why you may have seen an example in the staff report, 2 key issues. The second key issue relates to, it says take-home vehicles, but the issue is really affordable housing. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but we all know it's affordable housing, and I don't want to put one of my officers on the spot. But our newest hire came here, single person, really wanted to get in community policing. Unfortunately, he was unable to find housing here despite help from the chief of police, lieutenant, and staff members trying to find any kind of affordable housing in this area. So he actually has to drive to Columbia in his personal vehicle because there was a restriction on the distance for take-home vehicles, and I believe he was 7 miles beyond that limit. So he kind of got hit with a double whammy, you know, entry-level salary, but then he was also having to find a place. He couldn't find a place here; he had to drive farther. So there was a recommendation there that had to do with the take-home vehicle distance to at least, absent an increase in affordable housing, that we can designate to these kind of essential workers. There was also a request to increase that distance by 20 miles. So we've got both of those in there. Now, I know that we also are working on a revised version of a career progression plan to help with our long-term recruitment. It also addresses training and other issues. Now, we've got a very robust training program for all departments here, and we'll give an update on that in the future. But I do want to let you know, we will come back with a career progression plan. But in the meantime, to hit the hot topics right now, my recommendation was to make the pay grade adjustment and the take-home vehicle distance adjustment. Thank you, sir.
All right, comments from the board, questions? Betty?
Yeah, I got a comment. Affordable housing, which you know is my passion. A situation like this is gonna keep coming. Yeah. And whatever Manio intends to do, we intend to do it for affordable housing. We need to act quick and swiftly. And I keep saying that, and I'm not seeing no action, but I know action is coming sooner rather than later. So, with that.
Okay, Richie?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, Eddie?
Yeah, I'm for it, and I'll give my reason why. I think if we pay our employees, and specifically police department right now, but I think when we pay our employees the salary they deserve and train them as best we can and treat them fairly, we can retain the best of what we have. And then if we happen to lose anybody, hopefully from retirement, not for other reasons, but when people go their separate ways, then we can pull the best from other places. So I support it. Thank you.
Jason?
Yeah, I'm supportive of it too. I mean, we talked about it last time, so, don't just want to talk about it. You got to have action. And I think I appreciate that take-home vehicle distance change, because that's, it's not all as simple as, pay somebody more. You got to take care of them in different ways, and this is, that's a pain, I'm sure. So, yeah, I appreciate that, and I'm all for it.
All right, all excellent comments, and I agree with Eddie. We ought to be able to hire the best, and we can't hire the best if we don't pay them the salaries equal to the area around us. And, we don't really think about it, because we think about the quaint little town that Manio is. Again, I'm going to speak to Mr. Davis's, that it's a nice place to live, a nice village, and we think of it as very small. But yet, we want the best police department we can get, and we can't do it by letting them have minimum salaries. We got to match the salaries that other places pay on the beach and on the county, sheriff's department, all the police departments, and they're just as susceptible to being shot in Manio as they are in Nags Head. And they had to be specially trained, as Eddie alluded to. And they're a little special. I want all the employees of the town to get fair, equitable salaries. But, when you talk about a policeman, he's got to be trained much highly qualified than what somebody is just working for Manio. And I think we need to tell them we're proud of them and support them. And I just think it's really a good thing to do. Okay, James?
Yes, sir. In this case, if the board chooses to approve, we would need a motion and a vote on this particular issue. And there is a proposed motion that would include both of the issues of pay grades and the take-home vehicle distance.
I move to approve an increase of 2 pay grades for the police department, sworn staff positions, and to approve an increase in take-home vehicle distance to 50 miles.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Betty. Motion by Eddie, second by Betty, that we accept the time manager's recommendation for Manio Police Department personnel policy changes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations, Chief.
Thank you, sir. Next up on the agenda.
This is a good night for the police department.
Thank you so much. Next up on the agenda, this is item number 9. It's mayor and commissioner comments.
I don't have any comments, except I'm just going to add to what Betty just said. We have got to quit talking about affordable housing and take some action. Talk's pretty cheap and anybody can do it. We had one occasion just to come up, and it was not affordable housing. Some of it was, some of it was not, and it was shot down. But sooner or later, I would like to see Manteo take the lead. You're reading in the Coast Times and the Outer Banks Current about everybody's for affordable housing. Everybody's for it. Until it comes voting time, then they're all against it. You can't be for and against. You got to take a stand one way or the other. And we have got to have housing for our employees in Dare County. They can't afford to pay no $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 a month rent, and renting is bad enough in Dare County as it is. So I think we really need to start looking at affordable housing. We got some land available we could get started on, and we need to do it, James. And I'm going to say James because you're the manager.
I have nothing, Mayor.
Anybody else? All right.
I mean, I agree with the affordable housing thing, and I think it's, you used the last Saga instance that came up, and it wasn't a perfect fit, and when we're sitting passive and waiting for it to come in, it's probably never going to be a perfect fit, and so it's always going to get shot down, and so I think the shift in being passive and just waiting for something that we're going to shoot to come down, to come for us that we'll shoot down. If we want anything to happen, we need to be active participants in what affordable housing looks like, because it takes on, many forms, and I think we're all for that. So we just need to figure out how we can move forward with that. And then I'm excited about the comprehensive plan. It's a big deal. So that's it.
All right.
I wanted to thank the town, the police department for the National Night Out yesterday. It was a great event, even though it was raining. It was well attended. All the town staff, I want to thank them for everything they did. But also for the Community Police Advisory Board, a lot of members were out there in the rain, making sure the kids were welcome and comfortable, and it was a great event, well attended. I'm very thankful to the town for putting that event on.
All right. We have a need to go, any other comments? We have a need to go in closed session, and I think I'll just tell the participants and the people sitting in the audience you can sit, because normally what we do is go into a closed meeting. We'll go into the anteroom and have our meeting, then come back out and adjourn. So you'll just be apprised of what went on, not the full actions of the closed meeting, of course. So I'm just telling you, if you want to leave, you're not going to miss anything. But if you want to stay, you're certainly welcome to, because we cannot adjourn until we come back out of the meeting. So we have a need to go into closed session, James.
Yes, sir. And in order to go into closed session, we would need a motion to enter, and the motion would need to state the reason for going in that session, because we have to do that publicly.
All right. Can we have a motion to go in closed session?
I know, nobody wants to read that one. I move to enter into closed session in accordance with NCGS 143-318-11A3 to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege.
What
All right.
number was that? 143
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We're down to declare ourselves in closed meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And for the record, the group has voted to exit closed session. It's now back in open session, and no votes were taken during the closed session. Next up on the agenda, it's item number 11. That's for the adjournment of this particular meeting.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, there's a motion to adjourn. There's a second. Oh, wait a minute, let's talk about, how about, is it August we don't meet the next meeting, or we go into, or what?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the current schedule for this group, the second meeting in August was canceled, and it was done in accordance with the statute. That was the August 18th meeting is canceled because that's Virginia Dare Day, which has been a town holiday for many years. So
Well, that's
our
good.
next meeting would be in September.
All right, just for information, just need to know.
September 1st.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn, and we will meet again September the what?
September the 1st, sir.
September the 1st. Did I vote, or did we vote on it? Meeting adjourned. Damn, I'm so confused tonight, huh?